When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on a Friday, the day before the season begins, with Liverpool travelling to Portman Road to take on newly promoted Ipswich in a 12:30 kickoff. A 12:30 away. We don't get many of them, do we? So, Arne has done his first pre-match press conference, spoke very well, addressed a number of topics, addressed transfers, addressed Luis Diaz, addressed Darwin Núñez, so let's get into some of that. On Darwin, he made it clear that the way to maximise forward players is to get them into dangerous positions, to bring them into goal-scoring opportunities. He particularly highlighted Darwin and Diogo Jota, but he also said it in reference to the other forward players, so Mo, Diaz, Gakpo, and I think you include Harvey in that as well, which is a good sign. It is a good sign that Arne's kind of aim is to create easier chances for our forwards. A lot of people got very upset last year with Darwin waffling on about big chances missed and such, and ignoring the fact that many of the big chances he did miss, he had to create for himself. So the idea will be to create easier chances for our goal scorers to put away. That comes from build-up play, it comes from patterns of play, and it is a very smart thing to be focusing on. On Luis Diaz, he made it clear that Luis Diaz's future lies at Liverpool, that he's been impressed with what he's seen in training thus far. And to be fair, the one game Diaz has played in pre-season, he was outstanding and scored 2 goals. So I think we can put to bed any Luis Diaz to Barcelona nonsense. It is nonsense largely because Barcelona don't have any money. They don't have any money. They were going to buy Nico Williams. They went and bought Dani Olmo when Williams decided he wasn't coming. And the reason they did that was because Nico Williams let them know, I'm not moving. The president of La Liga has said explicitly that Barcelona, in order to sign, it was regards to Nico Williams, to sign him, they would need to sell for a similar amount of money, which would be, I suppose, Rafinha leaving. As they've bought Olmo, they still need to sell to have their books balanced by the end of the window, or they're going to be in trouble. Now, there's varying reports on whether or not Dani Olmo has actually been registered with La Liga as a Barcelona player. We'll have to wait and see. We probably won't know until Barcelona take the field tomorrow, or wherever they're playing this weekend, whether or not they've been able to register Dani Olmo. But if they have registered him, they've been able to do it by the skin of their teeth, which means to get Diaz in, they will absolutely have to sell. They'll have to sell Rafinha or a couple of cheaper players. And they don't have a ton of players that they can really sell and not miss significantly. When we look at their squad, I mean, Ansu Fati would be an obvious one that potentially they could sell, but I'm not sure. Oh, look, Dani Olmo ruled out of Barcelona's trip to Valencia. Let's have a look at what that's about. Let's look at Barca's squad quickly. Like, Ansu Fati's not going to have any real value now because he had a really disappointing loan spell at Brighton, and that comes off a couple of disappointing injury-plagued seasons since he broke through as a youngster and was overplayed. Right. Dani Olmo ruled out. But has not yet been registered. So Dani Olmo has not yet been registered. How are they going to sign Luis Diaz if they can't register the guy they signed 2 or 3 weeks ago? Barcelona bewildered by Frankie de Jong's attitude and believe he will leave for free. His contract doesn't run out for the 2 years, but he also hasn't been very good since joining. So I'm not sure it would be a huge blow. Financially, it would be a blow because they spent far too much money on him. But other than that, wouldn't worry about it too much. Anyway, back to Barcelona's squad. So Ter Stegen they can't sell. Cubarsí, Balde, Araujo, they can't sell any of these because they need them. Inigo Martinez, there's no value there. They're not going to sell Gavi. They could sell Ferran Torres, but then they wouldn't have a whole lot of depth in attack. They're not going to sell Pedri. Lewandowski will have no value. Ansu will have no value. Alex Valle doesn't have a ton of value because he's a young, unproven player. Inaki Peña is a backup goalkeeper. He doesn't have much value. Pablo Torre, talented player, but I think they need him for depth. Andreas Christensen, they could sell him, but then they are going to be light at centre-back, although they do get Eric Garcia back and Clement Lenglet back. They could sell both of them, but neither of them have a whole lot of value. They need Fermin Lopez for depth. Vitor Roque they could sell, but then who's their number 9? Lewandowski and what? Pau Victor, young, unproven player. Lamine Yamal, super talented. They're clearly not going to sell him. Can't sell Olmo. They could sell Frankie. Like, they could try and sell Frankie, but only one club would be stupid enough to give them a big fee. So they will need to sell Rafinha and Frankie to register Olmo and sign Diaz. Does anyone think that's going to happen? There's no value in Gundogan, and they're not going to sell Koundé because they need him. Like, they don't have the players to sell to register Olmo and sign Diaz. The most likely outcome for them is they sell Rafinha and maybe Clement Lenglet goes. They register Olmo, and then they bring in like Kingsley Coman on loan. And then next summer they try again for Nico Williams. And that's the other reason why I think it's very unlikely that they will sign Luis Diaz. Is because signing Luis Diaz is saying to Nico Williams, we don't want you anymore. And I think they do want him. I think they'd look at him at 21 and think, if we don't get him this summer, that's fine. We'll go again next summer. He is the one we want. We're looking long term here. We've got Koundé right back, Araujo and Cubarsí in the middle, Balde at left back. That's a young, immensely talented defence that we can develop and grow together for the next 5, 6, 7 years. And by that point, Cubarsí will only be in his mid-20s. Balde will be in the early part of his late 20s. Araujo and Koundé would be, 31? So still absolutely at an age where they can have them. In midfield, you've got Gavi and Pedri as starters. You've got Fermin Lopez as a really good rotation option, and Pablo Torre as a really good rotation option. All teens to early 20s. Again, a group you can develop together, build together. A couple of young other midfielders, Marc Bernal and Marc Caicedo, that they'll want to develop that same way and have that group together for a long time. And then Lamine Yamal, in 7 years, he'll be 24 years of age. So they're not looking, I don't think, at the short term anymore. I think the light bulb has finally gone off there, and they're taking more of a long-term view. And I know Dani Olmo is 26 years of age. So he's not a long-term signing, but he's still going to be good for 4 or 5 years. Whereas you sign Diaz, you are closing the door on Nico Williams. And I don't think that's something they want to do. Hector Fort, another one that will come into this group of long-term thinking. Mikael Fay, I think, is part of the long-term plan, but they might sell him just to free up some cash. But again, I don't think it's going to go towards Luis Diaz. And given what Arne said today, it's quite clear he wants to keep the guy around. So I think we can put to bed any notions of us signing Anthony Gordon. I don't think it was ever really a thing other than Newcastle approaching us. Certainly nothing has happened since. And based on what Arne said about Luis Diaz, it doesn't look like it's going to be something we'll revisit this summer. It looks like he wants to try and get the best out of Luis Diaz. And if he can get Diaz back to being the player he was when we signed him, that's a better version than what we've seen the last 2 years. And in his press conference, he spoke about developing players and improving players. And when you look at our squad, like, who really played at their best level last year? Who do we think can't be better than they were last year? Because I look at the squad, I think Alisson can be better than he was last year, and he'll hopefully, touch wood, play more than he did last year, missed 10 Premier League games. I think Joe Gomez played about as well as he's capable of playing last year, but I don't see any reason why he would drop off. I think Virgil played at an elite level last year, clearly the best centre-back in the league. Don't see why he'd drop off. Ibu didn't play close to his best level, so he can improve. Costas played about his best level, no improvement there. Raul was poor last year, so maybe he can bounce back. I have considerable doubts about it, but maybe he can. But he certainly didn't get the best of him last year. Trent wasn't at his best last year. There's definitely a lot more he's capable of. And Jarrell Quansah and Connor Bradley played really well last year, but with another year under their belt, more experience, developing, they're going to get better. So that's a defence that can, without signing anybody, improve significantly as individuals. And it can improve significantly as a collective with a better team structure and a better game plan. In midfield, I think we rinsed everything we could out of Endo. Szoboszlai, though, has multiple levels to go up. Alexis has a level to go up. We wasted him for half of last year playing him as a holding midfielder. Curtis Jones is definitely capable of a lot more than what we saw last year. Harvey Elliott played well last year, but by the fact of being 21 years of age, the same age as Quansah, the same age as Bradley, is going to get better, just with development, with natural progression. Ryan Gravenberch couldn't get worse, so he can only get better than he was last year. Luis Diaz was not used properly, did not play well, can absolutely get better. Darwin Núñez can absolutely get better. Mo Salah can be better than he was last year because he was awful for the last 3 months of the year. Cody Gakpo can absolutely be better than he was last year. And Jota was very good when he played, but he didn't play a ton. So just by having him fit, he will be better. He will bring more to the squad. So just getting half of those players to play better will improve us. Improving the defensive structure and not giving away cheap goals will improve us. And another big factor is injuries. Alisson missed 10 league games. Ibu only started in 17. Trent only started 25. Like, they'll all play more this year. Fingers crossed. That improves us. Szoboszlai only started 25. Should play more this year. That'll improve us. Alexis only started 31. Should play more this year. that improves us. Jones only started 14, only played in 23. If he stays fit, that helps, that improves us. Darwin only 22 starts. Diogo Jota only 14 starts. Mohamed Salah missed 10 starts. Like, having players fit will improve us. So when Arne talks about improving the squad with what he has, there are multiple avenues to doing that. Using players better, having a defensive structure that works, keeping players fit, and natural progression of young players. They all improve us. So the idea that we're going to fall off because we haven't signed anybody is nonsensical. We have 2 problem positions in our squad, 6 and left back. Undeniable that those are issues in this squad. Also undeniable they have and are trying to rectify the number 6 position. Also undeniable that we do have 3 left backs and maybe we can patch it together for a year. We shouldn't have to. It is something they should address. It is something they hopefully will address. But ultimately, we're not going to get worse. We didn't max out last year or anything close to it. We took 12 points from the last 24 available. We finished really poorly. Really poorly. We dropped a lot of bad points last season. And that's something that can be rectified this year. We have shown a capability to go above and beyond 90 points. There's only one other team in this league that has shown that capability. Only one. So last year wasn't us improving massively on the year before. It was merely bouncing back to a pre-optimal level. A below optimal level. Because in 2021-22, we took, 92 points? Last year we took 82. That's not us performing to our best level last year. It just isn't. And again, there's mitigating factors. The injuries are one. The horrendous luck we had with officials is two. We get just average luck with officials this year. There's another way we can be better. But there was also a lot of issues with the tactical setup of the team. And nobody can deny that that team looked really badly coached for large stretches of last season. No one can deny that. If they do, they're denying reality. We looked really badly coached for large stretches of last year. We looked immensely clueless. We had no defensive structure. We had, in the words of the assistant manager, the street as our game plan and attack, which is horseshit. And our midfield plan was on the ball, give it to Trent, and hope for the best. And off the ball, just run around with your heads cut off. There's a lot of ways that Arne Slot can improve the team that he inherited. Yes, we do need signings. But what we need those signings for are to win the league. With the squad we have, third is the floor, second is a distinct possibility. Arsenal are not some behemoth. They've never shown they can get 90 points. 88 last year, 83 the year before. Yes, they're trending in the right direction, but it's not like they've strengthened heavily this summer as well. They've brought in Calafiore into a position where they were already strong. So, is he going to start? Maybe, maybe not. If he does start, who does he start instead of? Start a left back? How much of a boost is a left back really giving you in the grand scheme of things? Can they score enough goals with the set-piece laws changing, bearing in mind how many set-piece goals they scored last year? And more pertinently, how many of them were the opening goal? Because Arsenal would get the opening goal and then sit back and then try and kill you on the counter. If they can't find those opening goals, and we saw it a bunch of times last year, they can't find those opening goals, they struggle to break teams down, even with the attacking talent that they have in Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Havertz, Jesus, Trossard. It's good players, no question, good players. But they struggled to break teams down last year. They excelled when they got that first goal and teams had to come and attack them. But without the set pieces as big a weapon this year, the Ben White rules that have clearly been brought in to target him and Gabriel and a couple of others and the shenanigans they get up to, that might be something that causes a drop-off for them. They might also get injuries this year, which they've barely had the last couple of seasons. So I can see a world where they drop back 4 or 5 points and we improve by 4 or 5 points and we finish second with the group we have now. But this idea that we've been overachieving is just horseshit. Look at the teams we've had. 4 all-time great Premier League guaranteed members of a Premier League all-time 11. 4. Ali, Trent, Virgil, Salah. No other manager ever in the Premier League had 4. Now, at the time, they might have had 4, but the Premier League was 7 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old. Not 30 years old. In the 32 years of the Premier League, if you pick an all-time 11, there are 4 of this team in it. So the idea that Jurgen was performing miracles simply isn't based in reality. Did he do brilliantly? Absolutely. For the first 4 years, absolutely phenomenal. The second 4 years, not so much. One really good season, 21-22, but ultimately didn't win the big prizes. One cup double though, so it's a good season. But ultimately that's it in the last 4 years, is that cup double. We're Liverpool. Winning a League Cup and finishing third is not a great season. It's not a bad season. It's not a great season. 2021, poor. 22-23, dreadful. We haven't been overachieving. And we cannot sit and say that the team from 2018 to 2020 is one of the 2 or 3 best teams the Premier League has ever seen, and then also say that Jurgen performed miracles with it. It's not like he won the league with Leicester. He had the best keeper in the league, the best right back in the league, the best left back in the league, the best centre back in the league, the best 6 in the league, the best right winger and the best left winger, all at once. All at once. And the other positions were filled by largely good players. Bobby was great. Ginny was great. You had Matip playing really well. You had Gomez playing really well. Like, that's 10 spots filled with really good footballers. And then you had Henderson, who was capable of really good runs of form, like we saw in the title season. From when Fabinho got hurt until he got hurt himself, he had really, really good form. The previous season, Ox was playing really well. No, not Ox. Ox was out because of his knee, wasn't he? No, Naby was playing well. Sorry, Naby was playing well. Shaq came in and played really well. Divock was performing miracles. Maybe that's the miracles that Jurgen was performing, making Divock look like a real footballer. Jurgen did an incredible job for the first 4 years, building the team, sculpting the vision, training the team, preparing the team. But it wasn't miracles, because when you look at the players he had, they were incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it certainly hasn't been miracles the last 4 years. The idea that us finishing in the top 4 3 times in the last 4 years with the team that we had are miracles is fucking mind-blowing. Mind-blowing to me. That people could try and argue that that's somehow overachieving. Oh, we nearly won the quad. Yeah, we didn't. So stop talking about it. We didn't win the quad. We were never top of the league in the run-in. It was never in our hands to win the league. We should have won the league. We should have won the European Cup, but we didn't. If he had won the quad, it would have been incredible. I still don't know that I'd say miracle. I wouldn't call Ferguson winning the treble a miracle. And I don't think a League Cup causes that jump. Like, we had Thiago in the team that year, playing out of his mind. The last 4 years haven't been great. They haven't been great. We've underachieved in the last 4 years. If you had told anybody the night we won the league in 1920, if anyone had said to you, in the next 4 years, Liverpool are going to finish second once, third twice, and sixth once, or fifth, or whatever it was, I think it was sixth. They're going to win 2 League Cups and an FA Cup. You wouldn't have believed them. You'd have said, there's no way. That's us massively underachieving. Especially if they told you we were signing Thiago Alcantara and Ibu Konate and Diogo Jota and Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai and Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo and Darwin Núñez. And like, people constantly bleat on about, oh, we haven't signed anybody and West Ham have signed players and look at them back in their manager and look at Chelsea back in the manager. Right. Of Chelsea's signings, the 3 big signings that they've made, 1 from a championship team, 2 from teams in the bottom half. If our summer business had been a fella from Leicester, a fella from Fulham, and a fella from Wolves, you would have lost your mind. You just would. The only signing they've made that actually improves their team is Pedro Neto. And they've still got holes everywhere. Of all the players West Ham have signed this summer, the only one that would get in our team is Guido Rodriguez, who they brought in on a free, because he's a marginal upgrade on Endo and could play the way Slot wants to play. But you wouldn't be thrilled with him. If we'd signed Guido Rodriguez on a free as our new 6, you'd be having a meltdown. But Todibo doesn't start for us. Kilman doesn't start for us. Wan-Bissaka, we've laughed at for years, definitely doesn't start for us. Somerville doesn't start for us. He'd be our 3rd choice left winger. Fulkrug would be our 3rd choice striker. It's so much easier to buy for a mid-table team looking to become a top 6 to 7 team than it is for a top 3 team looking to become a top 1 team. So much easier. That's why it was always easier for us to buy when we were outside the top 4 or finishing 4th under Jurgen. Because we weren't looking for those final pieces to the puzzle. We were looking for just improvements. And it was easier to improve because the players we had were not as good. They were easily improved upon. Now, yes, you can say there are better 9s out there than what we currently have. And that is true. And every one of them costs 80 plus million. You know? And yes, you can say there are better left wingers out there than what we have. Yeah, there are. There's not many of them. Not many of them at all. And none of them play in England. And the ones who are an improvement, one of them is completely unavailable because he's Vinicius Jr. And the others would cost somewhere in the region of 100 million. Now, I would argue Neto would have improved us, but he's just injured too often. But for the shape that we have, there's probably better fits for this kind of secondary 10 but can play off the left role, can tuck into midfield 3. It's quite a dynamic, fluid position, the way Paxiao played it anyway. Diaz will play it a little bit different because he's a different type of player. He is a winger, whereas Paxiao is more of a 10. To replicate Paxiao, Dominic could do it, or if we wanted to buy, you'd be looking at someone like an Eze or a Morgan Gibbs-White. But again, if we went and spent 60 million on Morgan Gibbs-White, even though he would improve us, and that was our big signing for the summer, let's be honest, you'd be having a tantrum. Not you, maybe necessarily, but certainly a lot of people you know would be having tantrums because we wouldn't be winning the transfer window. And we can't just sign any left back. It has to be the right profile and has to be the right level. Because if and when a new left back arrives, there's going to be a very awkward conversation that Arne Slot is going to have with Andy Robertson. And regardless of the fact that Robbo has not been good for the last couple of years, he is a club legend. He's been at the club 7 years, and for the first 5, he was outstanding. Now, he tailed off at the end of the 5th one, but he was absolutely outstanding. He blew away everybody's expectations. Everybody's expectations on what he could be for us, given we signed him from Hull for 8 million. And you might not remember, but I remember when we signed him. FSG being cheap. Who's this fella? Why are we signing lads from relegated teams? This is a disaster. You can't find good players for that kind of fee. Yada, yada, yada. Then when he didn't start the next season to begin the year, and Albi Moreno was playing, it was, another player forced on Klopp by FSG. Like, all of that was out there. All of it was non-stop. And then all of a sudden people just shut their mouth and watched what was in front of them as he developed into the best left back in the league. He's been a great signing for us. He is a club legend and he deserves to be treated with respect. So that left back coming in has to be a clear upgrade on him. And not just on what he actually is, but on people's idea that he is. Because people still think he's the player he was a few years ago, despite seasons of evidence that he's not. And the manager's going to have to sit down with him and say, look, Andy, this is the new left back. You're going to have to adapt to a squad role. And that's going to be difficult. But it does need to happen. It does need to happen. We do need signings. I'm not saying we don't need signings. What I'm saying is that when I look around the league and I see the signings that other clubs are making, and I see our fans crying about them, I wonder, like, how many of them would actually improve us? Like, give me the list. So Arsenal, Calafiori, yeah, he would improve us. Fair play, I would have loved him. I can understand why we didn't buy him, though, given the injury track record. Aston Villa. I really like Maatsen. He's not the type of left back that I think we want, so forget him. Of the others that they've brought in, Berentia would improve us as a 6 because he's a good 6. Potentially a very good 6. But he's not going to be their starter. And he's not the level that we're looking for. Like, we're looking for top level. Onana isn't good enough on the ball to be the 6 for Slot because he's not a 6. He's a box-to-box player. He can play as a 6. He's not good enough on the ball to be what Slot is looking for. So none of them actually improve us the way the manager wants to improve us. Bournemouth's best signing is Huijsen. He'd be our 3rd or 4th centre-back. Doesn't improve us. We sold Brentford their best summer signing. The Brighton lads. Minter would have been a really good backup for Mo. Gruda might have been a really good backup for Mo. Wiefer's not good enough. Chelsea, again, I would have taken Neto, but he's not the profile. He's just not the profile they're looking for. And none of the rest of the players they've signed improve us. Crystal Palace, none of the signings improve us. Chadi Riyad might have been a good fit at left back. But I think we can do better. The Everton signings don't improve us. The Fulham signings don't improve us. The Ipswich signings don't improve us. They don't get in our team. The Leicester signings don't get in our team. City haven't done anything. They promoted Savio from one of their many academies to the first team and pretended they paid a fee. But they did that deal, remember, months ago. They got worse because they sold Alvarez, who was really important for them. And they're the only team I care about. They're the only team I look at and think, well, what are they doing? Because they're who we need to measure ourselves against. Nobody else. Because no one else has proven they can go over 90 points. So City are the team to worry about. The aim at this club always has to be to win the league. And if it's not, we need to fuck it all off and start over again. This club needs to aim every single season to win the league. There's not a massive gap between us and City, even with everything that went wrong for us last year. Everything that went wrong. The poor defence, the horrendous injuries, the refereeing decisions, they still only finished 9 points above us. That's not a massive difference, and they've lost Alvarez. None of those United signings improve us. None. I would have liked Lenny Yoro. Again, he would have been our fourth centre-back. Newcastle. Nothing. Like, they've signed two backup goalkeepers, a backup left-back / centre-back, and a third-choice striker. That's their business thus far. None of the Forest signings improve us. None of the Southampton signings improve us. I would have loved Archie Gray. I really would have loved Archie Gray. And I do really like the signing of Odegaard. I think he's super talented. I think they've had a really good window. But none of those players come into our team and start. Because I just don't think Slot would throw Archie Gray straight in. I think you could put him in and develop him, but that's not helping us win the league this season. And I do think that's what Arne has in mind. None of the West Ham players, bar Guido Rodriguez, would actually improve us. Like, none of them. And none of the Wolves signings do. So, realistically, the only player is Calafiori. The only player that a Premier League side has signed this summer that would come into our team and improve us to the level we want to be improved to is Ricardo Calafiori. That's it. There's a bunch that have been signed where you'd look at like Yoro, like Huijsen, like Gray, like Odegaard, where you'd look at it and think, love to have him in the squad. But they don't improve the team. And Arne likes to have a settled team. It's very, very hard to buy for Liverpool when the aim is to win the league. Yes, there are loads of defensive midfielders out there that would improve us. Loads of them. Because Endo is average. And he's the only one at the club. But they're not just looking for marginal improvement. They're looking for someone that puts us in the title race. Same at left back. And I went through a shitload of defensive midfielders yesterday. 75 of them, I think. Plus the list I had on my phone. What did I come up with? Like 10? And some of them would just be stopgaps. Like a Locatelli. Stopgap. Do you for a year or two until you get the guy you actually want. Could you win the league with Locatelli? Yeah. If he plays consistently at his best level, but you don't know that he will, which is why he's available for 20 million. There's not a long list of left backs that are out there either that can come in and give us the jump that we're looking for. There just isn't. Despite the issues, like there's a bunch of out-and-out left backs. If we wanted an attack-minded left back, Ian Maatsen would have been one. Milos Kerkez, René Nuri, Miguel Gutierrez, Theo Hernandez, Purvis Estupinan, Alphonso Davies, Fede DeMarco. And that's kind of it. That's kind of it. But I don't think that's the profile they're looking for, because we haven't been linked with a left back this year. David Lynch has mentioned Aït-Nouri a couple of times, but I think if we wanted him, we'd have him. I don't think Wolves are selling now. There's been no other mention of any other left back. There's been a lot of talk about a centre back, but it's all aimed at a left footer. And the reason for that would be to play left back, because they're not coming in to replace Virgil. We were looking at William Pacho. We weren't bringing him in to replace Virgil. We were bringing him to play to the left of Virgil, to be the left-sided Gertruda. Like, it's hard. In terms of left-footed centre-backs, to play left-back, Bastoni, Lukeba, Hincapié, Inacio, Silla, but he's a prospect. Hincapié is a prospect. Oh, Lukeba is a prospect as well. Like, it's not easy for us to improve. Yes, there's obvious improvements. And yes, there are loads of players that would be improvements. But not if the aim is to win the title. And that's clearly what the aim is, whether you like it or not. There's plenty on This Is Anfield. There's plenty on Liverpool.com, Dave O.C. Cop, and Anfield Watch. I will leave it to you to check out what they have for your reading pleasure. And I will check AnfieldIndex.com, where there is a piece about Arne and the plans for tactical discipline. There is a preview of the Ipswich game, another preview of the Ipswich game, a piece about Mamardashvili, and a piece about transfers. Podcast-wise, we've just recorded the latest AI Scouted, so do check that out when you get a chance. There is a new Rival Recon, which is up as well, so do give that a listen. And of course, there will be post-match Raw returning. Myself, Trev, and I have genuinely no clue. I know it's not Harry, and I know it's not Carl, so I assume it's Jim or Mo. There is the David Lynch podcast, if you want to have a listen to that, and there is the new press conference pod, which Dave Davis has done. So that's everything. I will see you all tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. I will not be here tomorrow. Dave Davis will be here tomorrow, but I will be on Raw tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.